Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's so great that you all came just to see me. There's no laugh to that one. No, welcome, ladies. So, if you can't see who I am, it's up there. Christopher Ludwig, Chief Content Officer for Automotive Logistics, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all and to be your kind of guide, if you like, for the next couple of days as we drill down into so many topics impacting automotive logistics and supply chain across Europe today, and of course what will come into the future. You're going to be hearing from many experts in their fields, leaders, hopefully coming away with some new ideas, some inspiration, and opportunities to partner with one another. The theme of our conference this year, re-energizing Europe's supply chain through value-added logistics. When we talked about re-energizing, we of course had a number of different ideas behind that. One, of course, is the goal to ultimately decarbonize and improve sustainability in logistics. Of course, we were also thinking about the transition, the challenging transition, the uncertain transition to electric vehicles, different powertrains, e-trucks, equipment, etc., and all that comes to that. But we also had in mind the energy that we need to bring into this sector. Of course, we know that the European automotive industry, even aside from the crisis that we're now kind of seeing, is not booming and growing at a really high rate. But we still have a lot of value to add. And in fact, across all of the volatility, perhaps even more value to add, which we're going to talk about. So we wanted to bring an energy, if you like, into this sector with all of you to give you those ideas, scope, inspiration to come away better. And of course, behind a lot of that is our favorite word in the supply chain, which I think some of our speakers will even probably challenge the definition of, as you'll hear over the next day or two, resiliency. Or how can we be more resilient as a sector? How can we be better? How can we recover better? How can we move from this reactive mode into this more proactive mode? So all of that came into view when we were thinking about that theme. And of course, that was before we knew that we would face yet another black swan event, yet another series of crises. We should have known, because as you all know, we don't seem to be short of these sorts of crises these days. But nevertheless, that is the context that brought us here. And as I mentioned, I think as an industry, we've had to structurally adjust, or readjusting, to structural changes in the sector. We've been doing some research at Automotive Logistics, trying to identify the value of this industry. And you all know that the production volumes since 2019 are several millions lower than they were kind of before the COVID crisis and there. So we've lost something structurally like 3 or 4 million vehicles in the market, depending on how you count it. We don't anticipate a huge return to that. However, when we look at the European automotive logistics industry, we do still see growth. We do still see expansion within the fields that you're doing, inbound logistics, supply chain planning, vehicle logistics, service parts. And the drivers for that are not purely volume. They are indeed some of the volatility that we're all facing. We need to get ahead of those sorts of crises. So there is a lot of room, we think, and we think in working with all of you, to not only monetarily add value to the sector, but to help be more resilient, to help be more proactive, to think about the sector in a different way, in a more holistic way, end to end, where we think about working capital as much as we think about transport costs, and when we think about how we can better serve the customer. So again, there are other factors that are underlying that. We see new players coming into the market, many of whom are actually in the audience, whether it's from new brands from China, startups who of course will challenge some of what you're doing, some of what we're doing in the market as well, but also bring new ideas and new opportunities. And really that's a lot what this event is going to be all about, is how can we harness and leverage those ideas. If you want to know more, by the way, about some of the research we've been doing and our forecast and analysis for the sector, please consider our latest market report, which is available at a discount to all of you, so you can scan that code or you can talk to me afterwards. And And of course, here we are once again facing yet another disruption that we certainly didn't anticipate. Maybe some did, but certainly I think to the extent that is now. I'm not going to dwell on the details. I think you all know them. You can check them in the news. But I think once again our industry is getting tested, is being tested in terms of how prepared we can be, how well we can work together to mitigate this. You can see some of the figures there in terms of what the direct impacts are, in terms of basically the Strait of Hormuz being shut, the impacts that is having on energy markets and oil prices, the impact that it does also have on logistics itself. There are container ships moving in the region, there are PCTCs. Of course, major arteries like Jebel Ali Port are basically seeing traffic pretty much stop during this sort of period. So we're seeing a lot of rerouting and shifting around. Once again, you're all probably on the phone to your partners trying to come up with alternatives. And I think to some extent, you're definitely getting better at that than we've ever seen in the past. But there will potentially be other impacts over the years to come. So if you look in the short term, of course, it's moving things around. It's how do we shift and adjust. In the medium term, how long do those energy prices and oil prices stay high? That has a direct impact on all of your operations. It'll have an ongoing impact on inputs into the supply chain in terms of materials and parts and production costs. And over the long term, depending how long this goes on, which we certainly can't really predict, we will need to think about structural shifts and how we can really kind of adapt. And I think without kind of trying to go deep into what those things are, the message that we all need to keep in mind, once again, is that we are in a very deeply connected, embedded ecosystem. Everything that you decide to do will have an impact on your partners, upstream and downstream. And so we would only just say, please do connect and work together on this and try not to leave any part behind, because again, you are all very, very connected. And it sounds very trite and simple to say, but I think it's true, and I think it'll come across in a lot of the other sessions that we have. And on that note, let me just also mention many of the partners, suppliers, logistics providers who are with us today, helping to support this event, making it possible, booths and stuff outside, solutions to offer you. Please do spend some time getting to know them, connecting with them. Many thanks to our premier partner, Maersk, who, of course, is also hosting our dinner this evening out on the boat on the River Rhine. So look forward to that. And to our many, many other partners who are out there with us, and you can learn more about, of course, during the course of the event and in the expo area. So please take a bit of time to get to know all of our partners and, as we said, work together in this ecosystem to try to overcome the many challenges that we face. Just a couple of words about ways you can do that here right on site. So, of course, if you want to connect to the Wi-Fi, there's the code. You can connect right here at the ALSC Europe network with the passcode that you see there, if you don't want to use the 5G. I would really recommend to do it, not least because, as ever, you have the opportunity to connect using our conference app. You don't just see the program there. You don't just see our sponsors. You can see every single person who's registered for the event. So an opportunity to understand a bit more about what ecosystem you're here, the people around you. By the way, after the event or after sessions, you'll have the opportunity to watch back sessions and catch up on content that you missed. And we have a lot of content, sometimes at the same time, in different rooms. So I recommend you to do that so you can actually make sure you don't miss anything over the next couple of days. And if I can also just take a moment to introduce and remind you of some of my team that's here with you, those who are going to help guide us on stage the next couple of days. I just want to take a moment to embarrass them and point out my great colleagues, not the whole team, by the way, that makes this possible. There's way too many of them to name here, but the colleagues who will be on stage, including our managing editor, Emily, our assistant editor, James, our partner at our sister publication in packaging, Philip, and Riyadh, who is here also supporting on the ground. And I did also want to acknowledge someone that you all know who isn't here for very, very good reasons. So those of you who do know Richard Logan, you may realize that about 2 weeks ago, when the world went into a different kind of crisis, there was some light that came into the world with the arrival of Richard's daughter, Sienna, who was born, and therefore Richard is handling some precious cargo over these next couple of weeks. So just a congratulations to Richard and a little bit of joy to bring to hopefully all of you in knowing that. Yeah, thanks very much. Feel free to drop him a line and spam Papa Bear and let him know that we're thinking of him. So, but with that, coming back now into our conference and re-energizing Europe's supply chain through value-added logistics, I'm going to bring on shortly our opening keynote and speakers who I think you will find are really going to put all of this into perfect perspective from you. Not just in the terms of some interesting mathematics, which you'll explain, which we'll hear about soon, but really in understanding how complex the supply chain is, how deeply embedded you are as a network, and very, very importantly, how important it is to work together.